Welcome to Global View. Today we are diving into the very fascinating intersection between AI, digital innovation, and the future of creativity with a very well-known name in the field, Marc Beckman. Marc is the CEO of DMA United, an award-winning advertising agency, and a best-selling author whose latest book, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything, is making waves in the tech and the business world. Marc has designed creative campaigns for some of the biggest brands globally, from NBA, Pepsi, Gucci, Nelson Mandela, and MoMA. Is a leading expert on Web3, blockchain, and AI, shaping how industries evolve in the digital era. Beyond that, is also a senior fellow and adjunct professor at NYU Stern School of Business, actively contributing to legal policy on cryptocurrency and digital assets. Welcome to Global View, Marc. It's an honor to have you here.
I'm so excited to see the two of you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Congratulations with the show itself. I know you guys kicked off like a rocket ship, like right out of the gate. You got some amazing guests already. So it's an honor to be here today. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here and share with our audience all your incredible expertise from advertising and fashion, which I'm deeply fascinated about, and now also to the future of creativity with AI. I mean, I'm very fascinated by your book, which I had a chance to read, by the way, Some Future Day, and you mentioned that AI is going to change everything. But what is the biggest change we're going to see, let's say in the next 10 years, because it's going fast?
Okay, well, here's my philosophy. I believe that AI is going to change our entire society dramatically within 3 to 5 years. It's going to hit every sector, from the creative fields like fashion, art, music, entertainment, through finance, through war, through medicine and healthcare, across the board, government, across the board. In fact, we're already seeing Elon Musk leveraging artificial intelligence to restructure our government through his Doge division. So we're going to see a wholesale change. And with that, we'll have a lot of benefits in society. So from a very top line perspective, the benefits will come in ways where there will be financial value to families and communities. There'll be great value with regards to access to better health care. There'll be interesting areas that we haven't thought about. Like, for example, we take the value of food for granted a little bit here in the United States, right? We go to these supermarkets that are flush with so many options and selections, but now we'll have more food security as a result of artificial intelligence. And one of the best parts is we'll also be able to use artificial intelligence to make our quality of life better as it relates to spending less time on the tasks we hate. So in the book, I talk a little bit about robotics going in and dealing with like laundry and cooking and all of these things that I personally can't stand, so that we could have in turn more time with our loved ones, with our families, and also more time to think about unlocking entrepreneurship and creativity to stand up new businesses. So artificial intelligence is really going to be, radically different. And my book, I just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry to be so verbose, but
No, no,
the book is
It's
really
fascinating.
it's really built for beginners. This is not a tech book. I'll show you guys just the cover of it. The book is really made for curious people who are beginners. It's not made for techies. And the idea is, if you're curious about artificial intelligence and you're a beginner and you want to learn how you could leverage AI tools today to enhance your career, your family, and your community, this book does it for you. So that's a good starting point.
Well,
Sorry
just
to
to
talk so much.
I follow up on that because actually many people argue that AI is taking away creativity. Actually, in your book, you emphasize I actually will allow people to strengthen and their creativity, right? So we can forget all this annoying tasks as cleaning, cooking, and even like doing an agenda. So AI will take over all these pragmatical aspects, and so will allow people to become and fulfill their creativity. Their creativity, is that correct, or can you?
Well, you and I have known each other for a while, and I know that you are Similar to me, if I recall, you're an
Yeah.
attorney, but you're
Yes.
also creative, right? So
Yes. Exactly.
it's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
So think about on your creative side, if you want to unlock what I call the age of imagination, where as a designer, you want to create a new collection of apparel and accessories, and then you want to launch a new website to house that new collection. Let's say it's a new brand, even. You want an ad campaign. You want a jingle to promote, like audio branding, sonic branding to promote the new collection. Right now, today, you, as well as any other creative during this age of imagination, can leverage tools that are available to create the logo, even the name, like
Mm.
the brand name, the logo, the entire collection of apparel and accessories. You can leverage for primary packaging, secondary packaging design, an in-store environment, and then create a moving video campaign as well as still photography. And it's not perfect yet, but it creates a lot of efficiencies. So, for example, to do that and compete with these big fashion houses, it's impossible, right? For an entrepreneur, it's really, it's really an uphill battle.
Absolutely.
They have so
Absolutely.
many tools, deep pockets. Now you can leverage the efficiencies from a cost perspective as well as from a timing perspective and stand up these businesses with very little risk. You could design entire websites. You don't have to hire, an advertising agency like mine. You could design an entire collection and pre-sell it so that after people buy it, then because it looks hyper realistic, photorealistic, then you could go out and manufacture the goods, mitigating all of your financial exposure. So there's some great tools for the creative industry, and that concept then replicates itself as it relates to Hollywood, um, record labels, publishing, and beyond. I call all of this the age of imagination. It's my favorite part of the book, actually.
I love that.
Mark, I think in this age of imagination for creatives like yourself, like Simona, like millions of other people around the world, business people, entrepreneurs, AI seems to really create an economies of scale for to lower costs, be more efficient, and just streamline whatever the business that you're in a much more efficient manner. So that's the positive side. But then when you look at the employee side, right, the working man and woman who might have fear that their jobs will become obsolete, that they might not, like you said, you won't need an advertising company. So the advertiser who has a successful advertising company will be redundant because of AI. So how do you basically overlap this new AI wave that entrepreneurs and creatives are using while balancing having people actually working to continue the business that the AI is helping? Is there a room for both to work together, or do you think AI is just going to make creatives a one man or one woman show selling products somehow? Like what's the future of this collaboration basically?
Okay. Great question, George. First, let me start by saying I believe artificial intelligence will create new jobs across multiple sectors.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the hub, staying on the concept of creativity. At the core, you have the creatives, right? The creators, but that extends into law, accounting, media buying. There are so many different components, retail. And with AI, it's going to create more commerce and more jobs. Historically, as Americans, we've been fearful when new technology comes. We've always been fearful about job loss, the destruction of the marketplace. Even going back to automobiles, we were afraid when cars came. Could you imagine this? We were afraid that with the advent of technology in the automotive industry, basically replacing horses, that jobs would be lost. We have that as Americans. We always think that. But American ingenuity always unlocks more jobs. So that's the first thing. Second, if you are in the service industry, you should be afraid. It is going
Mm-hmm.
to eliminate a lot of jobs. They're going to be, to use your word, George, they're going to become redundant. No longer will you need certain um, uh, staffers on your team, like legal assistants, for example, in a law firm, when artificial intelligence, like right now, there's a great specialized legal AI called Harvey. It could stand up and eliminate all of that staff. That's great for the independent law firm who's trying to compete again with these massive law firms with huge budgets and massive amounts of people. It's going to create these efficiencies. So there will be some redundancy. Jobs will be eliminated. Now, people should think about artificial intelligence as a tool. And if they could learn now how to use this tool to enhance their career and enhance their performance and enhance their life, they'll benefit from that. So they shouldn't be afraid. It's scary because it's foreign to a lot of people. But if you're curious, there are tools out there that allow for people to enhance their career today. And that's what I do with my book. I literally lay out in the book across these different business sectors. I provide the reader with tools that she or he can use today to implement, start learning and to implement artificial intelligence in their careers. But they should be afraid, and they should realize that AI is easy to use. And if you get in now in the beginning, everything will run smoothly for them in the future. Their job performance can be enhanced. It's a tool, and it could be beneficial to everybody.
I think the entire point is evolution, right?
Mhm.
To keep up with the times. And you have, we were mentioning, you have a similar background. You master different fields, right? Law, tech, advertising. So how do you see, for example, the use of AI in law firms? I think it's going to save so much money and billing hours.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that it's going to do that's interesting, Simona, is it's going to create a balancing. Like, think about how expensive it is now for anybody to hire an attorney. Even
Yeah.
people with resources don't like the fees that are being billed. But if you look at like the lower socioeconomic strata within America, they're often wronged in ways that are unimaginable, like, hospital bills or, traffic tickets that they want to fight, but they can't hire an attorney. And what's going to happen is artificial intelligence is going to create legal mechanisms for those individuals that are more affordable and really beneficial. So, in many ways, AI is going to have a balancing effect across society. Where before I was showing you in the creative fields, now the dreamer in the age of imagination could compete with those big fashion houses, record labels, publishing, Hollywood. Now the same thing will happen where the little man, quote unquote, will want to have recourse on the legal front, and she or he will be able to use artificial intelligence to better protect herself or himself and get some legal recourse in those types of scenarios for sure.
Mark, the media has completely changed. Um, Decentralized media is here, and I think AI is really driving this change from the advent of social media companies, big tech, things like Grok, some of these other tools that influencers are using, Instagram, etc. Some Instagram people are more famous than actual celebrities today based on social media. Some shows on X are more widely viewed than MSNBC, CNN, or even Fox News. How do you see AI shaping the media landscape moving forward with decentralized media being here as a new reality?
Well, George, I'll tell you one aspect of it which is really exciting.
Mhm.
How many times have you and Simona sat at home and said, there's nothing on TV? We have all of these
So many
channels. There's
times.
nothing on, right? We've all done that.
Yeah.
So many times.
So, one thing that artificial intelligence will do from a communications perspective, whether it's entertainment or news delivery, is creators will now be able to customize that content to your preferred likes and dislikes. So let's say the two of you want to experience some kind of a, drama thriller type of movie this evening. It's going to totally transform and it's going to be great. The artificial intelligence will know exactly what George and Simona want and what you like, and that experience will come at you. But we're not going to eventually, this isn't imminent, but we're not going to watch it on the four cornered screen anymore. It's going to interact with us in the physical realm. And you'll be able to have these long form experiences with entertainment where, from a custom perspective, the story will unfold in a way that's unique to just George and Simona, and it will be ongoing. So that movie that you start tonight might work for the next year and a half, 2 years. Think in terms of like challenges in the gaming industry where these massive amounts of people are playing these games to accomplish certain things, war scenarios or mystery scenarios or whatever it might be. And it's an ongoing experience. It's not uh, like television where it's a 1 hour block or a movie where it's a 90-minute block. You're going to have a customized experience, and that will happen with the news too. So you might say, George, like, huh, MSNBC, they're all lying. It's not for me. They're racist and they're crazy. It's not for me. Well, that content for AI will be delivered by, a host that you like to look at, that you could relate to. It doesn't necessarily have to be a host who you currently watch, and they'll deliver the news that you want. You might, George, like knowing your background, you might be interested in finance and business issues and these types of stuff. You'll go deep dive in the topics that are important to you. You won't have to hear about, some of the nonsense that's happening in, the drama space or the entertainment space or the sports space. You could focus exactly on getting the news delivered from an entity that you prefer, like an individual that you could relate to, and then the news type that is structured specifically for you, George.
It's
Fascinating.
so fascinating, and
It's coming.
it's so going so fast. And I personally can only see benefits from this evolution, but some people are concerned about AI at some point. Do you think which are the biggest risks of
So
AI?
I'm Simona, I love that you're a tech optimist. I'm a tech optimist.
I am. I am.
I actually believe that artificial intelligence, I see it as a rocket, but I also, to your question, I also see it at the stage where like we need to treat it like a baby and we need to
Mm.
nurture it and train it in a way that's responsible as adults. We need to uncover the truth. So, one risk is a centralized type of artificial intelligence that's controlled not just by governments, and we'll talk about that in a second, but also by corporations, right? Because then their narrative becomes paramount and the AI messaging can disperse or disseminate across societies and really influence people to think it's the truth. Imagine if the entire next generation believes that like Tiananmen Square never happened, or that the Uyghurs are not enslaved within China, or that they don't really understand who Xi Jinping is. Well, right now, there's a platform called DeepSeek. It's a Chinese created artificial intelligence. It went to #1 in the App Store a few weeks ago. 2 million Americans downloaded it. And it's created by China, a Chinese company. It's my understanding that China backed it. And if you go into DeepSeek's search engine and ask it questions about Tiananmen Square, it doesn't answer. It's as if Tiananmen Square never happened. If you ask, are the Uyghurs slaves? It doesn't give a straight answer. It says something like, China doesn't believe in slavery. All people are created equally, da 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 da. Now, imagine if every 16-year-old in America is learning its history or its news from DeepSeek. It's very different than what the three of us understand and know. So that's a real risk. It's a centralized messaging system. And frankly, we've seen that not just from, in that perspective, it's like a Confucius type of learning model, right? But here in the United States, we've seen issues like that too. You guys might remember like Gemini launched and it was really politically leaning far to the left and it created images that weren't realistic with regards to gender and skin tone, et cetera. And then it was pulled back, right? They pulled it back. In some ways, perhaps even our buddy Elon is taking Grok too far to the right, maybe. So this is why I think if artificial intelligence is decentralized, where everybody could put the truth into it, I think as a society we'll be much better in the long run.
So that's I guess the next question is how do you assure that it remains decentralized and not overregulated? Because you could have let's focus on the United States for a second. You could have a Republican president today. You could have a Democrat president in 4 years or in 8 years from now. And unfortunately, I think what we've seen is that private companies, especially tech companies, kind of go with the wind. They go with censorship when the Biden administration tells them to do it. They're kind of more laissez-faire when the Trump administration is in power. But we still have the Constitution. And we have the rule of law, and we still are a republic. So, how moving forward will AI basically be left to its own devices without overregulation by government proxies, whether on the left or the right, in the United States and around the world, to make sure that it is efficient, like you're describing here?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, George. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really good assessment. We've seen fundamental change, a wholesale change with regards to just the last 30 days when Trump started and his commitment towards AI and cryptocurrency. It's going to be a very exciting time. He refers to it as the golden age. I believe that this golden age, the star of it will be artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. I think we'll see
Mhm.
the most growth out of every business sector focused on AI and cryptocurrency over the next 5 years. I predict that. And it's because of Trump's attitude, George. It's exactly what you say.
Mm-hmm.
During the prior administration, when Biden was in office, his uncertainty caused a lot of problems. It resulted in investment dollars being pushed out of the United States, particularly as it relates to cryptocurrency, as well as talent. An amazing amount of talent was lost on the crypto side and went overseas. So, I'm hopeful as it relates to the United States, George, that our um, uh, congressional branch of government institutes some law, right? We need the how we can't exist on executive orders. Trump's executive order as it relates to both AI and crypto is very encouraging, but we need something locked in now that allows for this industry to grow and also allows for the public to be protected to the extent that is required. For example, protecting the truth. It's a big issue, and AI can really distort the truth. So I think that's going to be up to our Congress people, our elected officials, our lawmakers to put a system in place now that we could live with for the long term. It's going to be tougher to change law made by the Congress versus an executive order. And it would be bad if we just keep, to your point, any way the wind blows, that will stink, right?
Yeah.
So we could finally find a use for our members of Congress.
I
And
don't know if they could keep
They
up with this
should.
administration, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
Trump's going a million miles per hour, and I don't think they've passed one law to support any of his executive office orders yet, right? Not one.
No
Mhm.
one. And talking about regulation, you are contributing right now actively to shaping legal policies on cryptocurrencies and digital assets. Which are just for the congressmen that are listening to this conversation, what they should dig into? Which are the protections that should put in place to make this new type of reality regulated and safe?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. There's
Mhm.
so much in the Web3 ecosystem that excites me. There's innovation and there's really great fundamental uses. So people look at crypto as like speculative and gambling. And meanwhile, the Web3 ecosystem provides so many benefits beyond just like the currency piece of it. But if there's an area that can really benefit from it in particular right now, it happens to be on the currency side. Um,
Mm.
the last administration under Gensler as SEC chairman, they just did a terrible job at creating certainty. Um, we don't know where things stand as it relates to digital assets being defined as a security or not. We're not sure about that. So I think it would be good for this administration to step up and give a clear definition as to how these digital assets, really what's going to be governing us in the future. I think it's digital gold. Like it's going to be pretty incredible what Bitcoin means, but we need a clear understanding as to what the definition of a security is as it relates to Bitcoin or ETH and beyond, NFTs, meme coins. It's just not there yet. And with that, I think we'll unlock a lot of new businesses, creativity, and a lot of just like utility value for the American public.
Inflation's killing the dollar. Every single year, the more money's being printed, obviously the more devalued the US dollar is. We're about $38 trillion in debt here in the United States. And President Trump is openly now with his new Secretary of Commerce, Lutnick, discussing tariffs as a way to abolish the income tax and basically rebalance the entire US economy. How do you see given this context that we just discussed here, this very fast moving environment, and President Trump's open support for Bitcoin and alternative and crypto generally, how do you see crypto evolving with the US dollar? Do you think it will replace the US dollar, or will the US dollar be backed by gold, other maybe a combination of gold, silver, other commodities, and even crypto? So that's what are your thoughts on the future of crypto and the dollar coexisting, or one replacing the other?
Okay. So let me back up and start with the fact that we live now in a post-trust
Hmm.
world. And a lot of that is not just because of COVID and all of these issues, but actually because of the government's influence over the banking sector.
Mm.
And what we've seen, for example, when you, George, talk about inflation, is the government manipulating monetary, fiscal, and fiscal policy to the detriment of the American consumer. We've seen price increases like through the roof, out of control with like basic like staples, like
Yeah.
think in terms of not just gasoline, but like the cost of eggs or milk, like normal families. In fact, I really believe that Trump was voted in because like the average family is sitting around the table at night before Trump was voted in, and they're like, how are we going to continue to pay for this? They weren't getting as lofty as like some of the philosophies that the left was bringing. They were just like, they want to do well for their families. They want to do good for their kids and the next generation. And it became very expensive. And a lot of that is because how these people in the government were manipulating the value of our currency. Well, what's interesting is that cryptocurrency is, for the most part, locked, and it's inflation proof as a result of that. There's only a finite amount of Bitcoin in the marketplace, and the government cannot impede on that. And it's interesting in Trump's, we referenced back earlier Trump's executive order. And in his executive order, he was very clear about not creating a central bank digital currency. And the reason he wants that is so that we have a free marketplace. Countries like China that have a CBDC, they could manipulate not just the value of the currency, but also they could regulate the way people behave, right? We don't want you to buy more gasoline, so we'll cut off the currency digitally. Your access to gasoline will be cut off, or your access to even, charging an EV will be cut off based on the government. So Trump is protecting us from that perspective. I think what's going to happen is I think Trump's at a point where during his last administration, he wasn't vocal about crypto yet. You might remember he was quiet about it. And I think it was because he knew he had to protect the dollar and the banking sector. But I think he sees that we're barreling into a digital first existence. Maybe we're there already. And as a result, crypto is going to be at the center. It's going to be the cornerstone for everything. It's the way our society functions. So I believe that you're seeing some things now, and you're highlighting it, George, that are going to be really exciting for crypto. So you mentioned Lutnick, for example. His firm owns a huge position on a stable coin, Tether. I think it's 5%. I've heard some people go as high as 8%, but let's stay on the low side. Apparently, Lutnick's firm owns about 5%, a 5% stake in all of Tether. So you could start to see, interesting, right? So you could start to see a movement here where crypto is set up at the cornerstone of all of these transactions. It's convenient, it cuts out the middleman, and it's inflation proof. But then it needs to be backed with something. And we're going to back that with stable coins, right? You could have the stable coins behind it, but the stable coins need to be backed with something. And for the time being, I believe that's going to be the US dollar. And when
Mhm.
that whole thing lines up, that's going to really rocket, I think, have a great impact on our economy because the United States government is going to have to put a lot of money in to back up stable coins, right? And I predict that that whole lineup is going to happen during the next 4 years. And in turn, it's going to have a positive impact on the value of the dollar globally. It's also going to have a positive impact with regards to the way citizens, American citizens, look at the government in this post-trust economy, this post-trust world.
That's so fascinating. And actually, everything seems to be decentralized from AI to now the decentralized finances with crypto. It looks like there's a shift over some sort of digital reality again, some people keep being afraid of. I heard people talking about the need to move to Mars because our planet Earth will be taken over by artificial intelligence. I think this is more like from a sci-fi movie than a real concern, right? But what do you think is going to be the biggest breakthrough for everybody that everybody will adjust to? Let's say in the next 5 years.
It's a good question. Um, my like one fear you asked me earlier about a fear. Um, the lack of humanity, right? Like we
Mm,
don't want to rely too much on emerging technology.
mhm.
At the end of the day, and I talk about this in the book also, at the end of the day, human emotion, the human spirit is superior to a machine, right? I often talk about this human versus machine concept. So, artificial intelligence, for example, could do right now, we could, right now in this conversation, we could create a song about freedom, right? And it
Mhm.
could be great. But the AI is just algebra. Generative AI is literally just predicting what the next word or sentence should be. And it will do a good job. It will actually sound good too. But it will never beat Bob Dylan because
No,
Bob Dylan is a real
emotion.
freedom fighter. He has his finger on the pulse of the streets, on the finger of humanity. And that concept applies to everything from creative industries to us interacting together as people, right? Don't you still, at the end of the day, just want to have, forever we've had great meals, right? Together. We want to sit at a table and enjoy humanity. And
Yeah.
that will apply across everything. The best business deals, George, are going to happen around a table, face to face, in the flesh. The best experiences are going to be, with the human touch. And we
Yes.
could lose that with technology. And that's what I'm afraid of. I know there will be some people who are going to like dive into the metaverse and enjoy VR, take meetings, on the side of on the side of a river in Hawaii all day long. They'll be lost. But what we need to do is continue to touch the flesh. We need to be humans.
I agree. And some people were even thinking of having boyfriend, girlfriends, and in metaverse version with no problems, no headache, no arguments that
Well,
they
in
can
some
adapt
ways,
to
though,
whatever.
Simona, in some ways, like that is actually going to be beneficial too.
To
So
lonely people, yes,
yeah,
maybe.
right. Like
Why
think about it.
not?
So in my book, there's a section, it's a true story. I talk about someone that I love immensely. Suzanne Summers' husband, Alan Hamill, is a dear friend.
Hmm.
And he let me tell this story. I was writing the book when Suzanne passed away. She passed away
Oh,
about a year ago.
Mhm.
And he's actually interested in interacting with a perfectly trained version of Suzanne Summers, AI trained,
Mhm.
because wants that companionship. He misses talking to her, and he feels like he could hold on to that. When people become
that's
older, like
beautiful, actually.
octogenarians in society, they become lonely. They lose their
Yes.
loved one that they've been with for decades, and they
Mm.
feel very alone. Their children are out, like, conquering the world, and they don't have a lot of friends at that point. So I
Yes,
think
you're
in
right.
some ways it's sad, but in some ways AI will, fill the need for people who are lonely. Um, and then the young generation too. Like we have such a high rate of suicide in the United States right now. In fact, for girls, the upward trajectory is the biggest in the United States. Suicide rate is the biggest in history. So are they lonely? Is there a way where they can find some kind of companionship or comfort through the use of artificial intelligence? Maybe it's not for everybody, but some people will hold on to it.
It's a very interesting angle, and actually, I agree with you. It's gonna compensate a lot of sadness and for losses, and also for people who are lost, simply lost and lonely. I think it's a very good replacement strategy. I would love that to bring back my grandmother, for example, being able to
Me
still
too.
have this type of connection. But anyway,
How would that happen in a practical sense exactly? Can you kind of go through, is the technology available now? Is it like a hologram? I mean, how would that happen? It's almost like you're downloading memories into I don't know, is it a cloud? Can you kind of explain
Yeah.
that a little bit more?
Yeah. So the technology is really fascinating, George. I'll share something that we're developing at our agency right now. We're creating, so everybody's going to have an AI agent. An AI agent will be an entity that you can converse with, but that AI agent will also be able to take away some of the monotonous tasks. So like George, you might, I know you're a fashion forward guy, but you might hate, like a lot of guys hate trying things on. So you could program the AI agent to go into like the Gucci store. I like a black shirt. This is the shirt I want. This is the price I want to pay. While I'm working on my business over here, you go shopping for me, right? The AI agent's going to interact with other AI agents. We're going to even see that in war at a level like where humanity's gone. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But the
Hmm.
way it works is this, the way we're doing it at the agency is first we replicate the voice and it's perfect.
Yeah.
AI generated voices are actually perfect. In fact, it's mind blowing how perfect it's become. It's literally like seamless, and it's there's a concern with that too. And then
Hmm.
we train the AI. And what we do is we have right now there are several different types of large language models that have like basically a corpus of data that the LLMs have been trained on from math and science to politics and history, but they basically go throughout mankind, right? So you have this amazing corpus of data. But then what we'll do to bring the personality to life is on top of that corpus, and we pick which LLM to use because there are some nuanced differences between them. And then on top of it, we train the AI in a specialized way. So for example, George, we might we'll have your voice and we would train your AI in a way that only showcases the interests that are unique to you. And we could get those interests for our client through books that they've written, shows that they've been on, radio shows, but we could also create parameters, guardrails about what they could talk about and what they won't talk about. So it's a very specialized type of learning process. And then what we have is like an audio entity. Now that audio entity, so think of it like it's almost like a mind in certain ways. I know that's like a little weird, but that's kind of the way it is. Then we go through processes like we're creating an AI agent for a client of ours in the crypto space right now. So a lot of crypto experts in my office and beyond are going to question the AI agent to make sure it's answering correctly, and we'll keep on tweaking it until we get it perfect. Now, the AI agent, the audio file, then could be built into hyper realistic, like literally photorealistic quality images that could take form on a screen, like a device, like a laptop or your phone. And then we'll go beyond that. We actually have aligned with the company that does a lot of the holograms in Vegas, all of those. So we're working with them
Yes.
on some things. And honestly, robotics are on the way, guys. Like robotics are really coming quickly. Like they're doing amazing work right now in the robotic space. It's going to become scalable and cost is going to drop. And I think that you'll see these AI agents come to life with robotics too.
Well, that's so incredible. And I think this is going fast, as I said before. So at some point, we will have this metaverse version of ourselves that is in a fitting room at Gucci, trying on shoes and bags.
Yeah.
And the other one, probably being home watching a favorite show that the AI detected to be a certain type of detecting my interest. So at this point, we have a parallel version of ourselves
Mm.
doing different things at the same time. And how is it going to, the question is going to be, how I distinguish what's real from what's not, or this is just everything real and part of the new reality?
I love the latter scenario, right? Like
Yeah,
it's the new real.
everything is
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. But we have to train our next generation, right? Like I have two children. I have a 16-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they are connected to their devices all the time. And it's like our generation was seeing is believing, but this next generation has to be, seeing shouldn't be believing, hearing shouldn't be believing, reading stories should not be believable. They have to do the work. So, this is important in some ways. Like I'm playing it to my children right now in this conversation. And, of course it's important for them. But think about this, like a scientific journal in the medical community, if the information and data isn't backed up accurately with actual accurate sources, think about the negative impact that could have on society as a whole. So what we need to do is really become fearful and guarded This is also another one of those areas where I talk about AI and crypto being inexorably connected. So Web3 technology, blockchain technology will play a big role with authenticating content, right? Now we'll know what's real. There are probably times where the two of you have been misquoted, or people take things out of context or whatever it might be. Well, now with blockchain, you can say something and permanently embed it on the blockchain, and it will show that it's an authentic statement from the two of you, or from, let's say, a senator or a president, right? And it's permanent. So you'll see the authentication piece of it become increasingly important as more and more fakes are built with AI technology.
We've spoken about AI as separate from humans, and we've spoken about the human condition and how we as humans have a unique experience that can't really be replicated with AI. Do you see a future in which robotics and humans merge and that humans become almost like a cyborg? We've seen Elon Musk obviously with Neuralink uh, discussing implanting some sort of devices into human brains. You mentioned your children who have their phones consistently. I carry my phone constantly. Simona does too. I know millions of others do. It's almost like an appendage connected to me. It's almost like it's a robotic de facto
Extension.
connected to me, and it makes my life a lot better. So, what's the future of robotics and humans basically intertwining? Is that possible? And if yes, so what would the purpose be, and what's the future of humanity look like after that happens?
Yeah. George, that's a cool question. I think that the idea sounds creepy, but it's very realistic. Think about how many devices humans put in their bodies today, whether it's, for their heart or for their hearing. It's commonplace in the medical industry now to put devices into people's bodies, right? So start there. You talk about Elon with Neuralink. He has three people with these chips embedded in their brain currently, and they're able to in a nonverbal way, control their phone or their computer. That's remarkable. I had a
Mm-hmm.
guest on my show from the medical profession who's using
Mm.
artificial intelligence to create like brain bypasses in people suffering from paralysis. I think he has two patients here in New York, and they've been able to feel and move because of artificial intelligence. It's wild. So take it, George, I like that you're on this call because I love business and I know you do too. So, like, take it back into the business specter, right? Think in terms of now the advantage that you're going to have in a board meeting. If you have a chip in your brain and half the board doesn't have that chip in their brain, you'll be able to get access to information. The AI will even be able to coach you, and you'll be able to beat the competition. Think about it, Simona. Like, if you have the ability
It's
to,
like a
like,
matrix downloading information.
Because
entirely.
then you become the AI that you are afraid will replace you. I know where you're getting here. It's great.
It's singularity. It's singularity, and it makes sense. And honestly, it's like the haves versus the have-nots. I believe this is one area where we're going to shred in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. It's going to be expensive to do it, so we're going to shred the classes, right? So if you're on the higher end of the socioeconomic sphere and you could afford to go down this path of singularity, it's such a huge advantage. Why would you not want that? Why would you want to like carry around a clunky phone when you could just send Simona a message without even speaking it, right? And she gets it, right? All that inference and everything else, it's all going to be there. It's on the way, guys. It's really on the way.
So, quick follow up to that. So, the humanoid robotics that we're seeing now, that these $30,000 robots that people like Kim Kardashian are flaunting on Instagram and that are cooking, making martinis, is that simply the means to this end, or will they have a use of their own?
Okay. So here's the thing. I think on the robotic side, um, let's face it, like when you see Kim Kardashian with that robot, I think, by the way, they gave her that for an influencer advertising campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you see that kind of a thing, it's a nice to have, but it's not a must have. So I complain like I hate cooking, I hate cleaning, like I want a robot running around my house right now, right? But we're not going to be the Jetsons. We're not going to have like, I think that maid in the Jetsons, Rosie, I think her name was, like that robotic maid, like that's not happening right away. But So a lot of these technologies really take off with utility. And I
Mm,
think the biggest utility purpose for robots currently is with regards to security and defense. And that's where we're seeing now drones explode. We're going to see, like, think in terms of like real estate. How much
Hmm.
better would it be to have robotic devices around the parameter of important real estate, important office buildings, governmental buildings that are protecting? I think that's where we're going to first see robots come into play, the utility of security and defense.
and
And then Rosie.
uh, you all this is such a fascinating insights and eye-opening conversation. You lay down all of that in some future day that I invite people to buy and to read because it's an incredible. It's whatever we're saying here. It's detailed in a much longer format. But how far is this future day we're talking about? When you say some future day, how far you think we are from this dramatic change?
So it's already happening. Artificial intelligence and like basic ways it's in our life already, like two simple ways, Simona. Think in terms of like hardware, like in your home, something like Nest, where it's creating artificial intelligence is being used for efficiencies, like controlling the temperature in the house.
Mm,
And in turn, it provides people with better, like they could improve their bills, right? They could save
mm,
money, right? That's all AI generated. Or search. I believe that I mentioned DeepSeek, and I don't really like DeepSeek. I would go towards ChatGPT, and ChatGPT and Perplexity are incredible. They're
I love
so
it.
much far superior for search purposes. They're going to disrupt Google. Only 10% of searches are conducted on AI search engines now, but that number will increase in years to come. So we have AI in our world already. Machine learning exists. But I really do believe that it will fundamentally change society within 3 to 5 years. I feel it. I see the innovation. I see the investment. Um, I see what people are doing, and it's pretty incredible.
In the meantime, to be prepared where people can find your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. So my book, here it is again. I could show you actually. It's apropos. Now you see why I designed the cover. It shows like a robotic hand and the human form of
I love
ballet,
it.
right? So
Beautiful.
Some Future Day is available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, and like other major booksellers. So
Where
I
people can
appreciate
follow
you.
you.
That's the key,
That's
right?
it.
So if you want to learn more, I'm on all social media platforms, on X, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and it's always at Marc Beckman, MarcBeckman, at Marc Beckman.
Thank you so much for this incredible conversation. We really both enjoyed it, and we hope to have you back.
Either
It's such a pleasure. I'm so happy to see you guys, really. Thank you for
either
having me.
either here or in the metaverse, Mark.
That's it, baby. I'll meet you in the metaverse.
I can come in 1 second, right? We're gonna materialize in a very nice outfit from Gucci.
Totally chic.
Totally chic.
Thank
Merging fashion with high tech. That's the best.
thank you
I
so
love
much.
it. I love it.
Thank you so much.